All right guys, Coach Science here. I want to talk a little bit about the idea of bracing. This idea is really hard to communicate to a lot of our athletes because you start using terms like anterior and posterior, tilting of the pelvis, extension, flexion. The athlete really doesn't understand what you're trying to say. So we try to break it down really easy, and we're just using the term bracing. And that's just putting the spine in the optimal position to bear load up on the shoulders. Okay, so I'm going to have Eli turn sideways real fast. Okay, Eli's going to show you what flexion basically is. It's going to kind of round over. This is a position we're usually in if we're on a computer, playing with our phone, whatever. And for the traditional idea is that people always said to arch your back when you squat or arch your back if you're doing some sort of lift. What that does is if Eli arches too much, it's going to put him in something called hyperextension. So now his spine is not flat, it's actually arched the opposite direction a little too excessively. So the idea of bracing is to get this pelvis to kind of rotate under and flatten his back out. So now it's in an ideal position to actually stabilize the load. So go ahead and give me a hyperextensive position again, Eli. Real big arch. You can see he's kind of pinched here and his ribs are sticking out high there. The idea here is he's going to fog the mirror, exhale. He's going to take this excessive spine out. He's going to breathe through his belly to actually support it. So one of the ways we coach our athletes to do this is basically that breath, that exhale, is to set the position, and then that second breath in is to actually stabilize the position. So just to work off what we just demonstrated with Eli, the three types of positions that we kind of see here, two of which are bad, one is good. And we used the same chart last week to actually help our athletes understand the idea of bracing. So this first one right here is what we see is when athletes get a real big S and they have that kind of hyperextension, really big arch in the chest. You'll see the ribs stick out in front of them, and their low back is not in a strong position to actually support a load. Okay, on the opposite side of that coin, you see someone with that kind of rolled forward position, which is flexion, is that it's simply just collapsing forward like that. And it's the opposite shape, but what we see is that it's still not optimal to stabilize the load. What we want to see is a good brace position. So you still see a slight arch here and a slight arch there, but it's a much more vertical line. And that's going to be an optimal position to do a heavy squat.